Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's Markets to Watch newsletter from Smack the Markets for the week beginning the 15th of June 2020. So, this week we return to the markets and we see that already we've seen quite a sell off going on in the US stock markets, and that is all to do with the numbers that are coming out of the certain states. A lot of states seeing record numbers over the weekend, particularly some of the high population states like California, Florida, and Texas, all seeing record numbers of cases, but also record numbers of hospital admissions. So, quite ominous signs there of a second wave, and also we've seen some spikes in China as well. Other than that, then we have another significant item this week. We have Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve Chairman, is due to speak twice. He's giving testimony twice this week in Capitol Hill. So that could be very interesting from a point of view if he's going to continue his downbeat sentiment that we saw last Wednesday from him. In other news across the Atlantic, we have high-level Brexit talks starting this evening between Boris Johnson and some of the EU leaders. So interesting there to see if they can unlock some of the stalling blocks they're seeing at the moment. Um, the Dow Jones. So if we take a look at this in the weekly chart, first of all, we can see what's happened last week. A huge sell-off, all on the back of those worrying numbers. The numbers kind of came out towards the tail end of last week, and that's given the appearance of this weekly candle now. But we haven't really seen anything like this since the original impact of the coronavirus on this chart. And we can see what's happened already today as well. We've broken the weekly candle and heading down lower. Now, there are some very precise levels on this, and it did break through that 25,000 area last week and continued lower now, and we're down at this 24,500 area. So it just tested it earlier today, and if we can get through this, we have that very precise 24,000 and the 23,500 area. So very precise levels on this if this continues. The daily chart, if we take a look at this again, it's the same levels really and the same windows and that. So very strong convergence to the downside here on these indicators as well on the sell-off last Thursday. Now coming down to the 4-hour chart, we have a nice trend established. Everything looking good here. Moving averages just getting into formation, and the indicators confirming that downward move again. So as we can see there, it's just testing that 24,000. It pops up very respectful of it on this chart as well, and breaking through that, then we should see a test of that 24,000 area. Coming down to the forex markets, then if we look at one of the most interesting forex markets this week is the dollar versus the Canadian dollar. So this one is interesting in the background as well, because we do have a little bit of a rally going on in the dollar markets. We've seen the dollar index hit some interesting levels and bouncing the last few days. We also, in the Canadian side of things, we've seen a little reduction in the price of Canadian dollar. We've also seen oil sell off fairly strong last week, and that would also tie in with weakening the Canadian dollar. So this week, or this chart here, we can see the weekly candle for a start. We came down to this supportive area here around 134. It's rejected it quite strongly and actually ended up above this other area here of 136. So everything looking good here, gotten through those two supportive levels and already broke the weekly candle here as well on this one. So we'd be looking for a further move here up to, on the weekly chart at least, up to the lowest here of not far off that 139 area on that consolidated area. Now the daily chart, the same kind of levels we can see there. We have this lower level here, which would be the first target around 137.20. So that's the first area, and the secondary target then at the lows of that consolidated period that we saw on the weekly chart. So the 4-hour chart, then we can see that the trends have been established here. We have very strong convergence to the top side, and we have broken the high here as well, and moving averages just getting into formation there as well. So everything looking good on this for a further run, and the fundamentals in the background confirming that as well. So the most interesting commodity we're looking at this week is oil. So opening up the weekly chart again, we can see, from the sell-off that we've seen February, March, and April this week, and all the problems oil had with OPEC and disagreement and curbs to supply. But at this point, we can see that $40 is a very important level on this. We have the high of that weekly candle for a start, and we tried to test it 2 weeks ago. We tested it last week, rejected it very strongly once it got there. We also have the Fibonacci study there of the entire move, and that 62% tying in very precisely with that $40 level. So it's broken the weekly candle already, although it's pulled back a little bit now. But we can see here on the weekly chart, if that does break decisively, we should see a further move down, at least to the $30 level. We may not see the lows, but at least to some further weakness in this. Now, the daily chart, You can see this is rolling over as well, a few days in a row of downward move. We can see the indicators confirming this and everything looking good on that one as well, and rejecting the $40 mark. The 4-hour chart then, this is looking very good too and very technical, and as you can see there, it's very precise, the levels it has and how respectful it is of them. So we have a nice established trend, very technical looking trend. Moving averages again just getting into formation, and that low there is actually last Friday's low, and it's also the weekly low of last week. So breaking that, as it's just about done, we should see a further move down to these lows here at least, which are around about that $31 mark or so. So everything looking good there on the indicators as well on that one. So that's about it from us at the moment. We'll be back Wednesday and we'll see how these have played out, and we'll have some more interesting markets to talk about at that stage as well. So we hope it helps, and we'll be back then. So I'll speak to you then.